this is Heather Hoffman, and today I have a fun card to share with you using some Distress Ink Oxides for blending with some heat embossing and using some of the newest Pretty Pink Posh release. And there's also a blog hop the day that this post goes live that I'm participating in as well. I'm going to make a small, this is going to be a 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 card. It's kind of a fun note card and a little bit different size than what you're maybe used to seeing. I'm going to start off by using the Love background stencil, and I used a little bit of Post-it tape to adhere my panel onto a piece of scratch paper that I'm going to use as I go around and ink blend. That panel is cut just 4 by 4, so it's a little smaller than my card base is going to be. I'm starting off with SPUN Sugar Distress Oxide ink, and I'm just going all the way around and blending that in, leaving a little white space in the center. And then I'm going to come around with a deeper shade of worn lipstick, and I'm going to do the same, just soft ink blending, but also leave a little difference in between, so it gives a nice ombre effect to that background. If you can kind of see that there. I love these background stencils. They work so well for just kind of a fun pattern paper look almost. All right, next up I'm going to grab those cute swans from Pond Friends. I'm going to heat emboss those on a little panel of white cardstock. I'm going to use my Misty to stamp them with embossing ink. And then I'm going to go ahead and heat set them with clear embossing powder and die cut them with the coordinating dies. And this will allow me to be able to do some ink blending over the top with a couple different shades of Distress Oxides as well. I wanted to do a card that was using some of these cute images but didn't actually require any coloring. I thought it was kind of fun to show another way. As fun as these are to color, they're also super fun for some different techniques like this. All right, I'm starting off on these swans. I wanted to keep the color really soft, so I'm using pumice stone. And I want to make sure and go over the whole image since I heat emboss them with clear embossing powder. I want to make sure that you can see that whole image. Otherwise, nothing's going to make it pop off of that white background. So I'm gently blending deeper at the bottom and then making sure I go all the way up to the top in a soft color. And then I'm going to come in with some hickory smoke and add just a little bit deeper shading towards the bottom just to give a little more of a three-dimensional look and a little more realism to them. All right, now that that's finished, I'll go ahead and die cut those with the coordinating dies. First, I'm cleaning them off a little bit with just a clean paper towel. That gets any residual ink that might have stuck to that heat embossing cleaned off. All right, you can see how those kind of fit in there in that little area in the center. And then I wanted to frame the image a little bit, so I pulled out the new large floral heart stamp set, and I'm going to do a very similar process. This time I decided I couldn't decide which one I liked better. It's been a while since I'd blended with Distress Oxide. So this time, once I stamp it with my Misty there on my white cardstock, I'm going to go ahead and heat emboss it with white embossing powder. And they both worked pretty equally well. I just kind of wanted to see if I could tell a difference between the two. And if you can see, I'd love to hear what you think about that too. Either one works really well for distress ink blending, kind of that emboss resist effect. And the reason that works is once you've heat embossed those images on there, when you blend over, the areas where you've stamped and heat embossed are going to resist the ink because they have a shiny surface. So it keeps those areas white. In the clear embossing, it kept them just the white, the color of the cardstock underneath. With the white embossing powder, even if you had a different color of cardstock to start with, it would still keep those images white. All right, for this wreath, I kept it really simple and neutral and blended around with MOWED Lawn Distress Oxide ink. And I just kind of was really soft with this color. It's kind of a deep color, but I wanted to keep that wreath color super duper soft. You can kind of see, I kind of just planned this as I went along, building one little bit at a time and continuing just until I was happy with the arrangement and the layout. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment on a little bit of black cardstock. I keep black cardstock on hand, just in a larger piece. I find it really handy to be able to heat emboss those sentiments and then trim them down with my paper cutter and get them into the thin strips that work so well to just embellish a card really quickly. So I'm heat embossing this in white, and then there comes my paper trimmer, and I'll just trim any excess off of the bottom and then trim it into a thin little strip there. And originally I was going to trim it a little smaller, but I kind of liked it across that full width of that panel. So since it's a little wider than that panel, I went ahead and just quickly held everything in place so I could trim that little extra off with my scissors and make sure it was perfectly lined up without too much extra work. And then I can peel that purple tape off really easy to go ahead and assemble all these layers. So the wreath, I wanted some dimension to it. So I went ahead and pulled out my foam adhesive strips, and I'm going to just adhere little bits of that on. I didn't need to put it around every bit of it, but I just kind of hit some of the larger areas. So I could pop it on there and it'd be nice and solid. And then I want to add the swans, obviously, as well with foam adhesive. So I'm just going to tuck the foam adhesive kind of where it fits along the top and the bottom, because where it's resting on the wreath, I don't really need to worry about anything adhering it there. Since it's adhered above and below, it's going to stay in place. So I was just double checking there so I didn't put the foam adhesive anywhere where it would get in the way and go over that first layer and cause a problem. So peeling off the back, and then I can tuck those in. I like to do them both at the same time because then I know they'll line up perfectly and be even and centered in the middle there. And then I kind of ended up changing my mind on where I was going to place that sentiment strip. Originally I was going to place it lower, and then I ended up deciding I kind of liked it across the top. So because there was a nice base to set it on, I only needed a tiny bit of liquid glue just to hold it in place on the wreath there. So nice and easy and not a lot of fiddly work to hold that in place. All right, now we're going to adhere it to our card base. Normally I would wait for that to dry and add my adhesive to the back of that panel, but I just went ahead and added it to my card base so I could adhere that all down without waiting for that glue to dry on that sentiment strip and worrying about messing it up. All right, then I started playing. I kind of tested a few different colors of jewels, and I wasn't sure at first what I wanted to do. I was going to start with colors, and then I decided I really liked just the soft buttercream jewels on there. They're kind of an ivory off-white. It kind of remind me of like a really soft gold, and I really like just that color on there. And then I'm going to use my jewel picker and adhere those in place just to finish off. And once I've got those all tucked in there where I'm happy, this card is finished. No coloring, lots of fun heat embossing, stenciling, distress oxide inks, and a super fun size little card that's fun to tuck into something and give to someone you love. Thanks so much for coming by today. Have a wonderful day.